Everyone has a battle that they're fighting, a cause that they'd be willing to give their life for. We hear people say this all the time, but it's not all that often that we actually see an event such as this unfold before our eyes. It happened during a tennis match between Stefanos Tsitsipas and Diego Schwarzman at the Laver Cup, when a climate protester became a little too enthusiastic. First things first, how did Stefanos Tsitsipas feel about the whole ordeal? We're sure that when Stefanos stepped out of his home on the fine morning of the 25th of September, the only flame he was prepared to endure was the blaze of competition between him and his opponent Schwarzman. As a professional tennis player who has quite literally been hailed as the third best in the world by the Association of Tennis Players, ATP, we're assured that he'd be okay with a little bit of heat here and there. But no amount of friendly competition could have prepared him for what was coming next. Imagine being in his shoes, folks. Can we really blame him for being a little disoriented by the whole ordeal? The man simply wanted to steal the show. He came with a goal in mind, but someone else's goals and aspirations seem to have taken over his own. Of course, if we talk about the bigger picture here, the overall well-being of the planet and the continuation of life as we know it definitely seems to take precedence. But most of us little guys just want to go about our daily life activities without someone literally setting themselves on fire to prove a point. Now, we're not going to pass a moral judgment on how ethical the whole thing was, and that's exactly the approach that Tsitsipas took. It was the smart thing to do. He didn't want an angry mob of climate activists outside his front door, of course. He simply expressed alarm at witnessing what he did and hoped for the well-being of the person involved. Up next, what even led to all this heat? Sometimes, in order to draw attention to something you're saying, you need to be a little loud. But it's hard to be loud in a world where everyone else is just as loud, and their voices drown out your own. And not to promote such extreme displays of self-harming passion, but we're going to be serious for a second and reflect on what conditions may have provoked this man from behaving the way he did. No one wants to endure pain, but for you to be seen, sometimes you need to create enough smoke, and there can't be smoke without a fire. And so this protester took the analogy a little too literally when he ran onto the middle of the court during a Laver Cup match and decided to set his arm on fire. From what we've heard so far, the man was wearing an NUK Private Jets t-shirt and is affiliated with Sacrifice for Survival. Well, there you have it. The name quite literally gives it away. This is essentially a cult for climate protesters. These people feel as if they really don't have a choice at this point. Their hands are tied, and so the only option is to set themselves on fire to garner the attention needed for their cause. We're not taking any sides here, but yikes. Say whatever you want about their methods, but we'd have to give them credit for the dedication to their cause, don't we? Then, what happened next? Now that you have more context for the situation, you're probably wondering one thing and one thing alone. Oh my goodness, is everyone okay? Unless, of course, you don't care and clicked on this video because the news caught your attention. Either way, we're here to give you some solace by letting you know that no one got injured and that everyone was safe. Even the protester who set himself on fire immediately received medical attention and sustained only minor injuries. None of the players were harmed either, of course, but we're definitely discounting the emotional harm and trauma everyone present there may have endured. Witnessing something like this is probably a mood killer for everyone, but more than that, it can also be quite disturbing and result in restlessness later. We weren't even there, and we still feel chills each time we think about it. Whether or not it was the right thing to do is a different question, but after the events of the day, a part of us does want to run to the nearest climate change charity and donate a little. It's the least we can do to fight off our guilty conscience. But of course, the rest of you don't have to feel the same inclinations that we do. The point we're trying to make is simply just that if the protester had a goal in mind and the goal was to draw attention to his plight, he was able to achieve it. On a final note, the show must go on. One key takeaway from all of this is that Stefano is not a man who lets any obstruction get in his way. Within minutes after the incident, the game was resumed, and he was back in his element. He did take a small breather to ask the referee about the state of the court. He didn't want any damage to get in the way of his victory, but ultimately he was a man on a mission, and the mission was to win. And then again, if your mind is so set on something, it's rare not to be able to achieve it. At the end of the day, Stefano won the game. It was a clear 6-2, 6-1 victory, and we do commend him for displaying such dedication to his own cause. This was no regular tennis game, and it certainly gave us a lot to think about. Now, in other news. For starters, saving the planet can also save money. One of the main arguments that most Trump supporters, we're kidding, have against sustainable development is that, well, it's not sustainable for the economy. Of course, this is after their first few arguments that blatantly deny that there's a need to save the environment. To begin with, a lot of people simply choose to look away from the problem. But at this point, and given the state of the world, it's a little hard to run away from the issue when it's looming right over your head, fully ready to swallow you whole. The good news is is that we can debunk at least one argument that prevents people from wanting to take care of the environment. Apparently, climate change is costing money now. In order to save us from the consequences of climate change, we'd probably need to invest around $12 trillion by the end of 2050. Killing the climate is also killing the economy. This is presented in a recent report by Oxford University, which clearly tells us that if we start investing now in sustainable development, we can save trillions of dollars. We hope the capitalists are listening because it looks like we're all in the same boat here. Coming up, it's time we bid farewell to our favorite coach. Behind every successful tennis player, or any player really, is the motivation of a coach who inspires you to always push to your limits and be better. We all want to make our teachers proud, even legendary tennis players like Roger Federer. Everyone who is even mildly invested in the life and career of this Swiss tennis champ knows that his coach, Ivan Lubicic, is like a father figure to him. But alas, all good things must come to an end, and so did the career of our favorite coach. After having given so many years of his life to this sport, Ivan is more than ready to move on. But who says the journey from one phase of your life to the next is an easy one? Saying goodbye to his passion was no ordinary deal for this man. His heartfelt speech during his last match brought everyone to tears. He may have lost his final match in the Laver Cup, but he managed to win a lot of hearts with all his hard work. His fans and proteges still hope for his return, but whatever he decides, we wish him all the best. Last up, Stefanos caught in a slump. Everyone has their bad days. Even if you're one of the greatest tennis players alive, there's a chance that sooner or later you'd have a day where things just don't go your way. We don't expect these men to be at their maximum performing capacity every day, but sometimes our bad days turn into good news for other people. That is exactly what happened in a recent match between Stefanos and Daniel Galan. They had several rounds during the day, but for some reason, Stefanos was unable to find the right bearings. Looks like something's on his mind, folks. What do you think? Either way, his lack of focus was a turning point for Galan, who made use of Stefanos' vulnerability and beat him several times during the day, sometimes even at a 5-0, 6-0 ratio. As bad as we feel for Stefanos, we can't help but congratulate Daniel on his win. That's all for today, folks. What's your thoughts on the protest at the match? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.